Climate change is a development challenge that impacts greatly on the ability of the provincial governments of Papua New Guinea to advance and meet their sustainable development goals and priorities. Including climate risks within provincial plans forms a proactive measure that not only enables adaptation and mitigation to climate change, but also ensures immediate and long-term benefits for our province. The Papua New Guinea National Planning Cycle is every 5 years and known as Medium-Term Development Plan or MTDP. Provincial governments develop their own integrated provincial development plan, determining whether to align it with the 5-year National Government Planning Cycle or further extend their own timeframes. Incorporating climate change into provincial development plans is crucial to avoid climate risks and to protect the province in the immediate to long term. The Climate Resilient Green Growth Mainstreaming Guidebook has been developed as a simple yet concise resource for provincial planners to learn how to incorporate climate change into provincial development plans. This video is a support tool for utilizing the guidebook and should be used alongside the detailed information found in the guidebook itself. Before we go further, here are key terms used in the guidebook and this film that you would find useful. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns as a result of global warming. Climate change is a serious risk to development, in particular at the provincial level. It can cripple the ability to advance social, economic, and natural resource base of provinces. Green growth is a hypothetical path of economic growth that is environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive. Climate Resilient Green Growth, or CRGG, is a sustainable development model that embraces climate consideration at the core of development and systematically addresses climate-related vulnerabilities and risks of economic growth while advancing social and equity goals. As climate change affects women and men differently, gender must be considered in CRGG mainstreaming processes, and is done so by utilizing what is known as gender equality and social inclusion measures. Climate Resilient Green Growth Mainstreaming is achieved by incorporating the CRGG approach into strategic and sectoral development plans. Integrating CRGG considerations into provincial plans, policies, budgeting, and implementation processes is a way of managing the inherent risks and costs associated with climate change and development. Before delving into the steps and processes for mainstreaming climate resilient green growth, it is valuable to first answer the question of why mainstreaming should be done. The key reasons for mainstreaming CRGG are to ensure a whole-of-government approach to climate change, to ensure costs and benefits of climate change are evaluated, to facilitate access to climate finance, to leverage existing climate change mainstreaming plans, to recognize and encourage the importance of climate change in all sectors of the economy, to support a feasible and smooth transition to low-carbon development, and finally, to ensure gender equality and social inclusion mainstreamed in the climate change context. Now that we understand why mainstreaming CRGG is important, we must then identify and understand the guiding steps to assisting effective CRGG mainstreaming, as well as the key entry points for CRGG in PNG government plans. There are 4 key steps in assisting effective CRGG mainstreaming, which are visualized in the cyclical graphic. For more details of these key phases, please consult the guidebook. The key steps are 1. Review and analysis, 2. Design and adjust, 3. Mid-term review and planning for the next Integrated Provincial Development Plan or IPDP workshop, and 4. Development and integration of sectoral plan into new Integrated Provincial Development Plan. A number of key entry points for incorporating inclusive climate resilient green growth measures can be found with the national and subnational PNG government plans. Utilizing these plans as entry points for CRGG is a practice consistently applied by Pacific Island countries across the region. At a strategic level, entry points include the national vision and long-term development plans, key development policies, medium-term development plans and sectoral plans, legislation, regulations or other legal instruments, disaster risk reduction and disaster management strategies, and finally, public-private partnerships. Still on a strategic level, provincial entry points include provincial development plans, capital investment programs, long-term and medium-term visions and policies, sectoral level implementing strategies, districts and local government plans and budgets, financing and monitoring and evaluation strategies. Additionally, at more practical ground level, entry points include sectoral plans, sectoral level implementation, financing and M&E strategies, corporate and agency plans and budgets, annual activity plans and annual budgets, disaster risk reduction and disaster management activities, integrated assessment projects, domestic or local funding processes, and finally, community participation. Complete details of these entry points are detailed within the guidebook's pages. With all the previous information in mind, we now turn to the most important part of mainstreaming CRGG, how to actually do it. The following section outlines a more practical approach to implementing CRGG mainstreaming with a focus on 3 primary steps, namely understanding climate risks, knowing your planning processes, and inputting climate risks and solutions into your plans. Regardless of the level or entry points that you are utilizing to mainstream CRGG, the approach to understand the climate risks will be the same. To understand associated climate risks, we ask ourselves 3 key questions and gain the answers with an array of processes. Firstly, we ask, what is the situation in my province or sector in relation to the climate? To answer this undertake, combine both hazard and vulnerability assessments. Secondly, we ask what problems or disaster risks are faced by my province or sector now and in the future. The answer to this will come from the vulnerability assessment alongside the implementation of a disaster risk analysis. Finally, we ask ourselves what solutions can the province or sector identify, prioritize, and select to reduce the identified problems and help manage the aforementioned situation. The solutions will be formed through 3 key processes, namely identifying CRGG strategies and measures or risk reduction, analyzing CRGG measures or risk reduction analysis, evaluating and selecting the preferred measures such as cost-benefit analysis, multi-criteria analysis, and other assessments. It is important for all stakeholders involved to understand their province or sector planning processes, which define the what, how, and when plans, policies, and projects are developed and reviewed. All planning processes can simply be broken down into a 3-step cycle, namely plan, do, review. Whether at strategic level or ground level and at any entry point. To understand identified climate risks during the plan step, it can be broken down into 5 phases known as preparatory, situation analysis, problem analysis, solution analysis, and design. The second step, known as do, really just means as it says, to do the activities within the plan, which consist of implementation, monitoring, and evaluation and reporting. Thirdly, the review step includes mid-term and final reviews, and is also the time for developing new strategies and plans. Key strategic instruments and sectoral plans may be updated, merged, and incorporate lessons learned and new information related to future climate impacts. Now comes the time to import climate risks and solutions into the plan you are developing. The understanding of the climate risks and solutions identified, as well as a good understanding of your provincial or local sectoral planning processes developed in the previous stages, will allow you to effectively mainstream CRGG into provincial and sectoral planning processes. There are 7 phases to this all-important aspect. Phase 1, preparatory, ensures political and stakeholder support, institutional setup, and technical expertise are all on hand. Phase 2, situation analysis, allow for understanding of local context, climate change, and other drivers of risk. Phase 3, problem analysis, includes the identification of current weather and climate risks and underlying causes of vulnerability. Phase 4, solution analysis, identifies response measures to meet development needs, climate risks, and other drivers. This is where we also ensure a decision regarding the preferred response options is made. Phase 5, design, is where the appropriate design of strategic level policy and action plans is undertaken. Phase 6, implementation, is the phase to implement the action as well as monitor and evaluate and report on the progress against the national, provincial, and sectoral development goals. Phase 7, adaptive management, ensures assessment of effectiveness and lessons learned identification to then inform new plans and strategies for future implementation in new and different initiatives. Further details on these 7 phases can be found in the relevant guidebook section. Mainstreaming gender equality and social inclusion utilizes a similar approach to mainstreaming climate risks and includes understanding gender equality and social issues, knowing the context of the planning processes, and incorporating gender equality and social inclusion solutions into provincial or sector plans. Practical approaches to gender equality and social inclusion mainstreaming include the following elements. Gender analysis, which helps to understand the social, economic, and political factors underlying climate change, how it exacerbates gender inequality, and the potential contributions of women and men building resilience and addressing climate change. Gendered actions, which are methods and tools to promote gender equality and reduce gender disparities in climate action. And finally, gender-sensitive monitoring and evaluation, which measures the outcomes and impacts of project activities on women and men's resilience to climate change using gender-responsive monitoring and evaluation approaches. After watching this film, and with the detailed information in the CRGG Mainstreaming Guidebook, you should be ready to begin mainstreaming CRGG within your plans and strategies. Useful case studies for mainstreaming CRGG can be found in other films within this film series that showcase the efforts and experiences of a number of provinces mainstreaming CRGG into their provincial plans and budgets. For further information and support, you may contact Global Green Growth Institute and Climate Change Development Authority through the websites provided. We wish you all the best in ensuring a stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous PNG in the face of ongoing global climate change.